Hi, I'm John Billingsley, and you are listening to Beyond Track podcast.
What are some thoughts of yours towards the whole, is Star Trek getting too woke?
The idea that a show that exists to push the boundaries in terms of what is acceptable and what it should be like just part of our human condition, which is, everybody on the fucking ship, as long as you're nice. To me, it's like you can't be too woke.
Red alert.
Welcome, Puppet, to Beyond Trek podcast. I'm Trevor Slattery. No, I'm not. This is not. This is not the Shang-Chi podcast. This is Star Trek.
I am really glad that you guys were talking about doing this when you did, because on my calendar, it came up kind of out of nowhere, was a calendar appointment for doing this review tomorrow, Friday at 8:30. Okay, so no one knows where that came from. So I was watching season 3 of Doom Patrol started. So I'm sitting here watching Doom Patrol, and then you guys were like, "Yeah, let's record tonight in a little bit." Oh shit! I haven't watched the Lower Decks episode yet.
So crazily enough, today my work was so weirdly unstructured that I actually watched it in the morning while in between things. I was like, I got nothing to do for 40 minutes. Fuck it, I'll just watch the episode.
You did? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I loved it. Yeah, it was delightful.
I had to wake up at 6:30 in the morning to give my cat some gabapentin so she wouldn't be completely unhinged, and then take her to the vet by 8, get home by 9, immediately start my day. Day went until 5. My voice is harshed, total harshed there.
I like it. You've got the Batman voice going on right now.
It's almost like you've been smoking, actually.
Oh, no, that's even worse because I quit 10 years ago. Like, no lie.
Oh, yeah?
I quit 10 years ago. Anyway.
Good for you.
So we're a podcast and we do things like Star Trek. We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Welcome back. Today we are going to go over this oddly named episode of
Before we do that, though, he's Dag, I'm Renzo, the other guy's Big J, just so that's out there.
How do we forget that part?
And as always, spoiler alert, because we never do that anymore either.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
So yeah, if
We're
you
totally
haven't
off our game.
seen the latest episode of Star Trek Lower Decks, Where Pleasant Fountains something, Renzo, Where Pleasant Fountains Lie.
Damn it, I just clicked away.
I think here I'll look it up. I think it was an odd.
Yeah, Where Pleasant Fountains Lie. That's exactly it.
Where Pleasant Fountains Lie. Shakespeare
You
reference.
beat me to it.
This episode was adorably salacious in my head. I love this episode.
I'm not gonna lie, I think this is my favorite episode of Lower Decks, period,
Really?
so far. Yeah, I really
Wow.
liked this one. I
Really?
thought that I'll get into why later, but I think it's my top.
Okay. I thought it was good too. Yeah, I really liked it, but I don't know. I mean, as top episode, I definitely want to hear Renzo's take on that as why he thought that. But it was funny. This episode was pretty funny, and of course the guest actor they had in the speaking role of the antagonist. I was going to say villain, but more antagonist.
Oh no, he's a villain. He kept the planet waging war for like over a century, right? Agonist is definitely a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They tricked these people into fighting each other for 100 years and worshiping the robot, no doubt, because they had that painting on the wall that was very propagandy kind of.
Can I say who did the voice?
No, go ahead.
Yes.
Jeffrey Combs.
What is he doing? That name doesn't sound familiar. Do we know him
Wait,
or something?
Wait,
I don't
no.
know.
He was in a movie in 1996 called The Frighteners with Michael J. Fox, where he played the weirdo cop.
Brunt FCA?
No, I don't even.
Is that the name of the cop? Because that's a cop. Brunt was a cop.
Brunt's definitely like a federal. He's like a federale. I don't know.
Renzo,
Ferengi FEC.
You said it wrong. It's Brunt. FCA.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is absolutely. This is our favorite Weyoun of all the Weyouns.
Yeah.
And Tyron.
He's also our least favorite Weyoun. Don't forget that too. He's also the dickish of Weyoun.
Definitely.
He played our favorite and our least favorite.
Yep. But my favorite Jeffrey Combs character, obviously Shran. By leagues.
Right there with you.
Shran was just fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we kicked this episode off with the Cerritos having freed these people of the dominion of Amigas or Amigas. I don't.
Agamus, I think
I'm
is how
feeling,
it was.
I'm
It was
feeling a very
Agamus.
Latin, like amigo friend vibe there, but with the US from the Latin suffixes.
Yeah.
Amigas.
Yeah. I think that it was a really well done scene too, because it shows that like Freeman is explaining to the people of this planet that, hey, shit happens, crazy computers take over. You're not the first, you won't be the last. In fact, we've got a whole room filled with these things, right? So they make that pretty clear, right? Like it's establishing that some of the foibles that our civilization in the real world is afraid of, evil computer taking over, right, are something that does happen throughout the galaxy and Trek world. So that's really cool.
Do you want to play a game? War games? You guys remember?
Oh no,
well,
I definitely remember War Games.
Yeah, war games.
I just don't want to play a game.
Okay. That's an old one.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so and then we've got Agamus actually trying to trick Freeman into doing things, and she just dismisses him completely offhand. No chance of tricking her to do anything. Right? Clearly she's got some experience with this. But Ransom
Almost.
gives it like a second thought there. He's like, oh, well, wait a second.
I could totally chuck you into that computer with that network port. Oh!
Yeah, I like the fact that they've got like a little sealant, like a cupboard that seals him in pretty well. He can't take control of it at the very least.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
They air gapped him.
Well, they've got to keep him from connecting to anything. Whole malicious.
his little
Programming
cables are
and stuff.
very impressive. How they've got some reach and he can get the things with them.
And he's got pretty much any adapter that you could want. You know?
It's USB-C, man. It's universal for a reason.
They finally got around right to repair and just made everything universal USB-C.
Mm-hmm. USB-C, still in the 24th century.
Best result of World War III was the universalization of USB-C.
Fun fact, literally today, the EU actually managed to decide and I think agree upon in court that they're going to enforce USB-C standards even on Apple in Europe. So Apple's going to have to follow it if they want to sell in Europe.
Pissed.
For sure.
I bet they're pissed.
So USB-C is going to stick around into the 24th century.
Mhm.
All right,
Yep.
so then they beam back to the Cerritos. They're kind of settling back in.
I like seeing
And,
Miggly Moo on the bridge again. It just sort of establishes the counselor on the bridge thing.
Yep.
Yeah, which depending on the situation makes perfect sense, right? Like if they actually were on this planet helping them recover from 100 years of devastation, a counselor has probably been quite involved in that mission, right? Like just counseling people, right? Helping to reestablish mental health facilities, who knows, right? So yeah, I get it.
Well, naturally, you would want to get your counseling from a giant bird.
I
Yeah, why-
believe in
yeah, because-
diversity. I
why
don't
not?
care what race my counselor is.
As long as he's capable and competent, yeah.
Precisely.
We get a strange hail from a very eclectically dressed woman who's very self-sure. And one of the favorite
Who
tropes...
Freeman immediately recognizes.
Right, and also the favorite trope of you're the only Starfleet ship in the quadrant.
Yeah, well, yeah,
It
they've got all
always
these
happens
ships.
that way. This woman is definitely the Loaxana Troy of Lower Decks. And also
Oh, yeah.
Billup's mom.
Her name is Paolana. She's the queen of the Hesperians.
Oh.
And we'll learn more about the Hesperians in just a second. But what I think is really neat is the implication that Freeman has dealt with this bitch a dozen times by now, and she's just over it. You can tell that she has no interest in helping her until she's like, "You're the only one that's nearby. You have to come and help us." And Freeman's
Yeah.
like, "Fine," right? Clearly they have played these games before. Clearly Freeman is very much over it, but she'll do her duty.
Yep.
I like that every crew has to deal with that overprotective mom or that situation. So
Yep, and Billup strolls onto the bridge right at the key moment and his name is Andarethio Billups. First name Andarethio Billups.
Which
So what were we saying before we started, Renzo, about the names?
yeah, I
Crazy
think it's interesting that on the Cerritos, there's a lot of people who have like nicknames or short names that are very common, so like Brad or Sam, but in neither of their cases are they actually like Brad Lee. No, it's Brad Word, and it's not some Samuel, it's Samanthan, right?
Samanthan.
Right, and here we've got Andy Billups, who's Andarithio Billups, not Andrew. So it's a twist on things that's pretty interesting.
It's different.
Yeah,
So-
I'm not complaining. It's just like one of those like head scratches. Like I get it, but like why? Like,
Yeah.
is there a reason? Or just to
Why?
be weird?
Because
I mean, it's the same as reason behind Michael, right? Like Michael is a boy's name, but they gave it to a girl. They even
Yes.
commented on it, right? Like Tilly goes, "Isn't that a boy's name?" The only Michael I've ever heard of is the, "Oh, you're her." Yeah, right. There's only one Michael kind of thing.
Whoops.
So, mhm.
and actually, funnily enough, I knew a Michael who was a girl.
Really, that's cool.
Yeah.
Typical
Well-
spelling or anything weird about it?
I think typical spelling. She was actually, there's a friend of mine that I went to college with, and this girl he married, it was her younger sister. So, yeah.
Cool. So as we,
I think it's a beautiful moment we come back to when after the credits end. We're just looking at the stars pass off the aft of the Cerritos. The engineering hull is hanging there. We're at the bunks. It's a very cool way to be like, hey, look at this really pretty view, but also this is exactly where these people are on the ship.
Yep. Yeah, no, they've given very good at using establishing shots of the exterior to tell us where they are on the interior. Like when they show things in engineering, just before they cut to engineering, you see the pod and they're swung between the nacelles. That type of stuff, well done.
Yep.
It definitely helps establish the shape and size of the ship.
I thought it was a great shot. I like shots like that. I think we should get more of those, more of the shots that actually show you where they are in relation to the setup
Remember
of the
those
ship.
beautiful scenes at the beginning of like the motion picture where they just zoom around the Enterprise,
Yep.
the Enterprise for like 10 minutes? It helps take the ship in, right? You have that a few other times throughout the franchise, and it's always pretty handy. Broken Bow starts with one too for the Enterprise NX, right? Like,
Yep.
it's good. I like seeing the ship from the outside. The ship is a character in the show. Let us get a
Yeah.
good look at it. Don't always hide it in shadows or at angles.
Yep.
Right.
Like, and I think that's something that the live action shows both could learn. Discovery more so than Picard.
You're not wrong. Like La Sirena and Discovery don't feel like characters. Enterprise, all the Enterprises, they were characters. Even if in the 4 seasons that we had with the actual show called Enterprise, I didn't really feel it there a whole lot. But she was still a character, and it's what led to the people cried in 3 when Kirk detonated the Enterprise, and boy did she go out with a bang. Like, they didn't do her wrong there. The Enterprise D, same thing.
Right.
Voyager certainly felt like a member of the crew, right? Like they would talk to Voyager every
Yeah.
now and then, right?
Yeah.
Defiant, less so. It's a bit of a warship. They certainly talked about it as though it were important to them, but never like as a member of the crew. But its destruction was still like, ooh.
Defiant
Ooh.
was Cisco's MRF and pimp hand, though. Just
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
destroyed. Speaking of shots, Boimler is polishing his Type 3 compression rifle.
What's even
We
the point of a phaser rifle?
What, I don't know. What am I doing with a phaser rifle? Who knows?
No, you're supposed to answer like Boimler did. You have to hold it with 2 hands.
Is this the first time we've seen a phaser rifle No, not in this series.
This
Didn't-
No, we saw it in the first episode, I think. Remember when they had the zombie plague thing that
That's
Winston
what I
brought aboard?
was. I was thinking that. Yeah,
It's very
that had to be.
interesting.
Yeah, we did. We did, didn't we?
It's just cool
Okay.
to see it again.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So, anyways, they're talking about their current missions. Boimler is super stoked about this mission that he's going on with Ransom, where he gets to prove that he's ready for combat, where he's going to go shoot at giant centipedes on Dansk. Mariner seems to be pretty unimpressed by this one and tries to talk him out of it, and brags about her mission to Earth, where she's going to drop off the computer that they previously picked up in the last scene at the Daystrom Institute. She thinks that that's the much more cushy assignment rather than going and risking your life fighting centipedes.
Right?
He's probably right.
Yeah, and you would think that, well, okay, I was about to say you would think that would be right up her alley to do the mission that Brad was doing, and Brad doing the milk run. It seemed like they were kind of switched from what I was
thought about that. I didn't think about that when I watched it, but you're right. That's a very good point. I wonder if she has some sort of background with centipedes, why she may not be interested in that, or
yeah, maybe, or she wanted to take the easy one.
I think we just lost Renzo. Renzo is frozen and done.
I bet you his dog kicked out. He always has the best faces.
Tuvix. This is by Janeway Split Tuvix. But
Tuvix is his dog.
An interesting point that you make there is that Boimler is starting to move up, and Mariner is starting to hold him back.
Yes, I was kind of getting that vibe because he does seem like he's kind of getting more and more outside of that. I don't know. His, I guess, safe zone would be the right thing to say.
Let's pause for a sec.
Sure.
Hi everyone, I'm Nerd Bomber.
And I'm Tactic, and we're two of the hosts of the Online Warriors podcast.
Our podcast started as a way for three best friends to keep in touch and discuss their nerdy hobbies like movies, gaming, tech, and more.
Since then, we've grown into a great community. Every Wednesday, we chat about the latest nerdy news before getting hands-on with our weekly nerdy adventures.
And don't forget our high-stakes trivia game. Come join the fun at onlinewarriorspodcast.com and every major podcast platform. And now, back to the show.
Do 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 ba da ba ba da bum bum. Star
How's the weather out there?
Wars, nothing but Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. Renzo is back.
Sorry, series of tubes. My bits got clogged in the series of tubes.
We blame Al Gore for not becoming president for the reason why we have shit internet now.
I mean, you mean Tony Barrett and those guys?
All those dudes that took, what was it, like $4 billion in infrastructure money for fiber, and we never got fiber.
Didn't do anything with it besides put it in their pockets.
Yeah.
Wasn't that some shit right there?
All right. Are you going to splice back to, or what's the plan?
So I had just said to Jay when you froze and we didn't realize you were froze, was that it's like Mariner had in season 1, Mariner had committed to being like his mentor, and now she's holding him back.
Yeah. I think that's a very good observation. I didn't catch that flip the first time. So, you're right. I can see Brad wanting to do it. Brad would want to do it because it's going to suck up the ransom and it looks good on the resume. That part makes sense. He says as much. But you're right. Mariner has some sort of, reason not to be involved with centipedes. Maybe she's got some previous trauma.
I'm just glad to see Brad Word kind of getting out of his comfort zone, his safe zone, and doing something that's a little more risky.
Yeah, and he does that continuously throughout the episode. I think that this was a very good episode for him as a character.
Mm-hmm.
So we warp on over to meet up with the Manaveen, which absolutely looks like a sword scabbard. It's beautiful. But it's got the cool, I don't know, it's got this weird fusion of technology and
elegance.
And yeah, it's got some gilding on it that looks cool. It has a little sword shining on the front piece like a Mercedes symbol.
So their people are the Hypatian people are described as being, or Hysperian people are described as being a bunch of Ren Fair nuts that founded a colony.
Because they found a planet that had dragons on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a Ren Fair festival planet.
Yeah, and as Billups says in the episode, right, they literally use modern technology. They just call it magical things and pretend that it's all magical. She calls her chief engineer their chief blacksmith and such. So cool. It's not actually magic. It just looks fanciful. It looks ornate.
Well, isn't there that blurred line between science and magic where the science would come off as magic or fantasy?
No, that's Asimov's line about any significantly advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, right?
Yeah.
I think it's Asimov.
It is.
But it's a great line. I just don't think that's coming into play here. Nothing in the Monavine particularly strikes me as more advanced than stuff in Starfleet. It just looks different. It looks cool. That's about it. I am a big fan of the design, though. I think it's a very unique design for stuff in Star Trek. We've never seen a ship that looked like it, which I like. The closest thing that we've had that looked at all like it was the cruiser of Mudd's father-in-law.
Oh.
No, his father-in-law's ship.
Right on.
Which had a name that I'm blanking on at the moment.
Kind of gives me a vibe of the kind of ship you would see coming from Naboo.
Yeah, it's got that look. But theirs were very streamlined and solid. They didn't have like ornate fixtures on them at all. I think calling it like looking like a Porsche or something is probably a good call. Like it's got like a Jaguar little shit on the front or something.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right there. I drive it.
Billups is giving a little bit of a rundown in engineering about, all right, this is these are the Hysperion ships. They're kind of interesting. It was, a planet founded by cosplayers. Did you grow up in a castle?
How cool would that be to be on a planet like that?
But
a party
Billups,
planet.
As cool as it is, Billups is still doubling down on, I would much rather be an engineer.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing, right? He didn't just grow up as somebody on Hesperia. He grew up as the prince, right? Like that's different. He's growing up as like one of the richest, most powerful people on the planet automatically. Maybe being a peasant on that kind of world, not as much fun. Who knows if they have feudalism? Who knows if they've embraced something like a post-scarcity economy like the Federation has? We really don't know anything about these people. Living there for the common person could be pretty awful.
Okay, yeah.
So.
And this is where we learn that as the Crown Prince, he has to maintain his virginity, or as soon as he loses it, he will become king. And his mother is always trying... This is that little flip on, Luoxana always trying to get Deanna married. This one's just trying to get her son laid so he can take over the crown.
And Pelana, she's definitely into it. She's setting it up. She's got 2 guards who are specifically trained for this sort of situation.
It's the precise, I don't know. It's
I don't care what culture or species you're from, but your mom trying to be the one to help you get some tail, it's just gotta be the most awkward thing.
Well, you say that, but I mean, I know some people whose mothers were instrumental in getting them their first girlfriend. Like, hey, your son, my daughter. We can get this going, right? Kind of thing. And then they end up having sex, and the parents are ecstatic about it. So,
you're talking about setting up 2 people. We're talking about a mother that literally her goal was to get her son laid. And that's different. That's a direct goal.
I'm sure that in parts of Tennessee, I'm sure in parts of Tennessee and Alabama, I'm sure in parts of Tennessee or Alabama, there's definitely a dad that's just been like, son, you're 17, let's go get you laid, kind of thing.
Well, okay, yeah,
I mean, honestly, I had a former employer who grew up in Detroit, and apparently it was just common for kids at like 16, 17, 18 years old to go to the strip and pay money for services. And I was just like, you're telling me this story about how common this is when you were a kid, like in the early
shame,
80s?
Right? No shame for me on this one. I'm just saying, right? Like, there's cultural differences there. And remember, in a world that's supposed to be like the Renaissance or the medieval times, right? People's lifespans then are like 40, right? So maybe that's not true on Hesperia, but maybe they still treat it like it. They try and get you married and hitched by your 14th birthday or something.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this moment where they enter engineering, and Renzo, you pointed out a Batman moment that comes later, but here's another Batman moment. The armor that the male guard is wearing has nipples on it.
Oh, that's a good point.
When he goes into engineering,
The
and he's
nipples
got a
on the
cod piece, which in and of itself is just weird, but his armor has nipples on it. So I just want to thank 1997 for. Was it 97 for that, or was it Kilmer that brought the bat nipples?
I thought it was Clooney that had the nipples first.
See, I thought it was Clooney too, but Clooney was the last Batman of that series.
I know Clooney did for sure, but yeah, you're right. It was in Batman Forever. Val Kilmer playing Batman. There, I'm going to look it up real quick, but there weren't nipples on that. That was.
So, additional fun facts in this scene. On the background behind Rutherford and the other ensigns, you see complete diagrams of a dragon, an actual honest-to-God dragon, and you see the castle that Billups grew up in, and they both look suitably fantasy-esque, right?
Yep.
Like, they would fit in Game of Thrones, or fit in, a Lord of the Rings kind of property. So, it's legit. Some additional fun things. I don't see anything here that suggests that Hesperia is a member of the Federation either. So it could be a bunch of humans that settled a colony independent of the Federation, which I think is pretty neat.
Could be.
Sorry, guys. I am seeing pictures here from Batman Forever, and I see nipples.
Nipples?
All right. You heard it here, 800th. Batman Forever had nipples in it.
Yeah, because I've seen it, and I could have swore I thought, yeah, that's the one. I mean, really, but this was the Joel Schumacher time, and it's just nipples on the batsuit. Don't get me started.
So then we go to a very touching scene with Rutherford and Tendi talking about the fact that Rutherford's going to go to the Monavine to try and repair this problem. And Rutherford is confessing once again that he feels inadequate for the task. He's saying he's good at working on the Cerritos, but he's not sure that he can work on the Monavine. It's just so outside of his element. And Tendi knows exactly what buttons to push. She goes, "You love weird engines. When are you going to get another chance to look at this? You're going to get to see the engines of the other side and all that, right?" She knows exactly what to say, and he is suddenly very much into it. She manipulates him, and it works. He does what he would have wanted to do with confidence anyways.
And it is just a continuation of the way that Samanthan kind of used to be last season, which was very much interested in all of those engine things. And so it's almost a little bit of manipulation where Tendy's like, you need to be the old Samanthan Rutherford, which we thought they'd kind of got closure on when the duplers were duplicating,
I think it's a continuing story, right? He's definitely built it up. He even says it in the scene, right? I'm confident with Cerritos. He wasn't confident with Cerritos last episode, so progress,
Makes
I
sense.
guess. But yeah, it's good. So that I thought was a pretty good scene. And then we cut to the next scene where we've got now Boymore and Mariner. As a reminder, Boymore got his centipede killing duty killed off. He didn't get to go. So now he's stuck going with Mariner on the shuttlecraft heading to Earth. And he is pissed about it. He's not happy about it. And Mariner tells him that, we'll drop off Agamas and then we'll get some Okinawan ramen, right? That'll make everything better. Just some ramen.
For sure.
I don't disagree. Ramen's delicious. I've never had Okinawan particularly, but...
Is that such a thing?
I mean, sure it is.
I'm sure they make ramen on Okinawa. I don't know if there's anything unique about it. I'm sure there is.
I was just curious as to why it seemed like there was kind of a intentional Okinawan ramen. I thought maybe it was some reference or something.
It's a thing. So Okinawa makes their own kind of soba noodles apparently, and it's a very unique kind of soba. It is more buckwheat is used in the making of it, so it has a different texture.
Nice to see that ramen make it to the 24th century.
Yeah, and it looks so good. Ooh.
Now the shuttle gets caught in some kind of anomaly, some kind of gravimetric shear, which is an interesting thing because do you know what gravimetric shear is? It's a key component of transwarp conduits
and the Nexus.
And the Nexus. So it's definitely some kind of space warping, even time warping phenomenon that is used in, the Nexus might be the natural aspect of it. transwarp conduits, we remember Rios telling Soji that, what, you're just going to hop into a transwarp conduit, no compensating for the gravimetric shear. In addition to that, we know transwarp conduits needed to have some kind of chronometric alignment from the front end of the ship to the back end of the ship to keep it in temporal sync. Otherwise, parts of the ship escalated in different parts of time. So to encounter a gravimetric shear as a natural area, or maybe this is where like a transwarp conduit sort of slammed into, and if that's the case, this could be like a remnant transwarp conduit from when Janeway blew up the Borg stuff.
Yeah,
Most interesting.
So if you think about what a gravimetric shear is, just definitionally, right? Gravimetric means that it's a gravitic force. Gravity is pulling something, and it comes on very suddenly. Like there's no transition point,
Yep.
right?
Right.
Like there's not, which isn't how gravity works. Gravity works by the inverse square law. The further away you are, it gets weaker, right?
Yep.
Here it's just very suddenly there. Cool. We've seen that a couple times in Trek. We've seen that where a shuttle gets ripped out of orbit from a planet that they didn't know was there, right? That happened to Tuvok once. That happens to B'Elanna Torres in Paris once, right? Like, these things exist out there. But the way this one happens is really neat. They essentially fall into this, like, anomaly, and then they see wreckage in space around a planet that they didn't see before, and then they end up crashing on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Would they really not? Would the sensors have not picked that up? Because I would
It
think
depends,
that, Mhm.
right? Like, it depends on what it is. So...
Okay.
If you remember that episode of Voyager that had the Mars exploration ship that fell inside of like a geodesic fold or something,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
that storyline could work the same way, and I think that also mentions gravimetric shear in that episode,
That's
right? Like,
Friendship 1.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good episode. That kind of thing could do because they didn't detect what they fell into until they hit it.
Squeaker,
Apologies
squeaker.
for
Toy.
Tuvix. Apologies for Tuvix.
Which toy is Tuvix playing with now?
It's a whale.
No,
Whale.
this isn't the whale. This is like the little green Martian guy.
Oh.
Renzo, your dog was like asleep all day, and then once his podcast
Just
time,
right
there he is.
now. Yep. This planet gave me a lot of vibes like The Force Awakens.
No, so hold on a sec there. Before we get to that, one point I wanted to make though.
Oh, yeah,
there
yeah,
was
go
a
for it.
very recent Orville episode that had a very similar premise to this, where a planet appears out of nowhere. In that situation, the planet literally appears out of nowhere, and the shuttle crashes very similarly for it. But yeah, so I thought that was a pretty cool comparison that they just did this in their last season too.
Yeah.
And don't we have planets appearing out of nowhere in like When the Bow Breaks and Meridian? Interesting moments. If you don't
Remind
remember
me,
Meridian, that's
Meridian?
okay. It's the second most forgettable episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Planet appears out of nowhere. Jadzia falls in love with one of the people, decides that she's going to go live with them, and then her presence on that planet, when it shifts into subspace, causes some kind of anchor and would blow up both of the planet and kill her. So they have to beam her back, and she doesn't get to hang out with the guy that she fell in love with over the course of a weekend. That's
You're right.
Meridian.
That must have been forgettable because that didn't. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
recognize.
for the record, the most forgettable episode of DS9 is Shadow Play.
So then we end up on the planet, and you're right. There is absolutely a scene there where they like ride a piece of metal down like a sand wall, essentially, that looks straight out of The Force Awakens, 100%. And I even think the music takes some cues from it too, which is very nice because John Williams' score for that scene was incredible.
And this poor Yosemite shuttlecraft that has been with us for so long is now completely thrashed. And Mariner sets her own arm.
Yeah, that was rough.
Augment.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Riggs did it in Lethal Weapon.
Oh, that's
so-
different than relocating your own shoulder. She set her
With a
own
broken arm. No,
humerus.
she did both. She seemed to do both.
Oh, I just thought she set her humerus.
Okay,
Oh,
so
something-
they realize that the systems on the shuttle are down. It's quite le fucked,
And we
right?
can only get shitty licorice. for
No
food.
distress calls, and the replicator only makes them black licorice, the least nutritious food that tastes like medicine.
I hate black licorice. Oh,
I-
always.
It's gross. And then at the last moment, while they're starting to like get up, they hear a call from under the wreckage. calling for help, and it's just helpless little Agamas just wants to be helped out and can help out too. He offers to fix the replicator for them if they just, bring him closer so we can plug right into it. Immediately, Mariner's like, nope. Boimler is also immediately like, nope, that's a trap.
Bad idea.
Yeah. Boimler even tries to close him back into his little security closet so that he can't get back out. But it's too badly damaged, so Agamas is stuck outside with them.
Is this the part where Mariner called him a 100-year-old router?
I think that came later, but I love that line.
Yeah.
Anyone who works in IT love that line.
Next scene is we are back with Rutherford and Billups on the Monaveen. And Billups is telling Rutherford that their culture is very distracting, and then as they're walking in, there are people like dancing and playing like a guitar, and there's a horse in the hallway, and it looks straight out of the Renaissance fair.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up.
Lots of portraits. I almost felt that this stairway area was very reminiscent of that ball from that episode where they were in their dress uniforms the whole time, but very interesting little area.
The paintings for me struck me as something out of Harry Potter, honestly. Like, if they'd moved around and looked at you while they were walking past them, I would have definitely called it. This is just a Harry Potter reference. But the statues, too, like, it all had a really cool Hogwartsy vibe to me.
Well, you know what definitely had a cool reference was the engineering core that looked like Vol from the Apple. Just this dragon that's hanging out there. It's
they
fine.
called it the Dragon Breath engine, right?
Right.
So, Dragon's Blood Flame.
They just had to make everything pretty, that's all.
You think it runs off dilithium? Or,
for sure.
Yeah. All the technology is
quantum
exactly the
phased.
same. They just rename everything to sound very fanciful. Even Billups has this necklace that has like a little incarnation of the ship as an icon there.
Yeah, I don't think that their technology is at all unique or anything special at all. It all seems very de rigueur for both the engineers. It's just the names. Okay. And even when Rutherford tries to play along with calling it the Alpha Matrix or something, Bill's like, no, don't do that. So, yeah. And apparently they just had a very weird engine problem, and they start looking at it, and the situation appears impossible. And when Paolana, Mom, starts asking about it, Billups gets very defensive, like, no, I can fix this. Just give me time.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the challenge for him. I think that he's the kind of guy that I don't see backing down from the chance to learn something or learn something new. We've all been there. We've been faced with that thing that takes us out of our comfort zone, like, oh my God, this is a Mac. I've never touched these, don't want to, or, this or that, but you're kind of thrown into it to figure something out, and you learn it and get better with it. I think that's kind of what he's feeling here, is the thought of not doing well or failure, because he's used to Starfleet engine designs, and I'm sure this is probably something very different, I would think.
So I'm going to put it even a step further than that. I think you're completely right, but I think it's even more than that. He's also trying to prove it to his mom, right? Like, not only can I do my job as a great Starfleet engineer, I'm good enough to fix your stuff, even though I've never touched this particular ship before, probably. I can do it better than your blacksmith, aka their chief engineer. Yeah. So It's sort of a, like, I can do it, just watch, Mom, kind of thing. Rebellious phase Andy Billups.
Well, he's got something to prove, so there you go.
Understandable, too, right? Like, if you are the doted, controlled child your entire, like, early life, where you don't get any freedom, where you are forced to do certain things, you have no agency at all, yeah, you're going to rebel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else for this scene? Would you guys want to mention the dancers or the guards or anything neat that you guys set up for you guys?
It's thoroughly TOS to me. It's really nice. It's not even like a callback to anything specific. It's just a really cool reference to these things being in the universe still.
I would say that there was a reference, though, with the people, like, sitting at consoles just just pushing buttons, doing absolutely nothing that seems to matter. Very much like those scenes in the sides of the Enterprise, like Kirk's Enterprise, where people are just like turning knobs that don't actually exist and such.
Right.
They're just people in the background doing stuff that must do something, but we don't see it.
Just to tell you, I know what you're talking about. There's this infamous scene in the original series. Kirk is more or less walking towards camera, and there's this random guy that looks like he's turning something, but it looks like there's nothing there that he's turning. But actually, I've been told that was an actual, like a glass wheel or some, like he really had his hands on something, but it was not pronounced enough to be able to see on a 4x3,
Fair enough.
10-inch screen in the 60s. But so yeah, there's a story behind that apparently.
So we go back to our next scene, which is back on the planet, and we've got Boimler, Mariner. They're just eating the emergency rations that they found on the shuttle. They're now outside of the shuttle. They're taking in their surroundings, and they are seeing that they are not the only people who've crashed into this rock. It is littered with other broken ship parts. And Agamus starts trying to offer some concern to Boimler. Buddy, you're looking kind of pale. Are you okay? Are you eating enough? Are you all right, buddy? Right? Like, it's very, very fake. But it's pretty clear that he's just trying to, like, wear down their defenses. He even offers to power, like, a sonic shower for them with his battery, which, that seems very personal of him. So just connect me to an engineering conduit, and I'll get you a shower, man. So that doesn't go well. And then they eventually get discovered by some creature off in the distance that just roars at them. They try shooting phasers at it.
Shrugs it off.
Don't work. Maybe they should have brought the phaser rifle, huh?
Yeah. What's the difference between a phaser and a phaser rifle? You have to use two hands.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So they retreat back into the shuttle. They realize the creature is eating all their rations, and
And Agamus is still trying to...
He's still trying to talk to them, right? Like, plug me into things. I can help fight the creature off. And then when they're not looking and they're holding the door shut, one of his little long snaky cables plugs into a pad and initiates a data transfer that doesn't quite finish, but he gets a lot of something.
And we find out what he gets later on. And
all right,
he finishes the data transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Sneaky computer.
So they spend the night in their little shuttle, but they realize that they need food or water. They can't get any because the stupid replicator keeps giving them just crappy licorice. And as somebody who detests all forms of licorice, I hate black licorice the most.
Yeah.
So watching this episode was really cruel for me.
I mean, who likes black licorice? Do you know anyone who likes black licorice?
I do. I know a Swedish buddy from work who loves black licorice and loves salmiakki, which is like a Swedish kind of black licorice, which is salty. It's not just black licorice, but it's like salty black licorice. The stuff's nasty.
That guy's going to be a serial killer. That's what's going on right there.
I can't imagine somebody who weighs like 120, 5'2", becoming a very successful serial killer, though.
It's the ones you least expect.
That's fair.
But aren't shuttles? Haven't we always seen shuttles that are equipped with some kind of crash gear, emergency equipment? That's
the rations that the Beastie ate outside.
Right.
The shuttles are equipped with exactly what the narrative needs them to have.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Can't argue with that. That's definitely true. So,
I mean, it was. Do you remember what was that episode? The Ascent with Quark and Odo.
Yeah.
And how the narrative specifically just had them have one pair of thermal gear, and they would trade off the pants and the jacket between the two of them. just a thing that like you've never seen thermal gear packs in a shuttlecraft sense. So.
I don't think you've seen a better buddy episode than Quark and Odo.
buddy.
Right, buddy trying to save their lives climbing up a freaking mountain, and Odo breaks his leg because this was when he was not
able to
shapeshifter
morph.
power.
Yeah.
So they decide that they're going to go looking for resources, and Boimler is going to swaddle Amigas in a little broken.
Though there was a little debate there. There was some debate there. Mm-hmm. Mariner was just like, just leave him here. We'll come get him after. And Boimler takes the moral high road, the ethical choice that he's a sentient life. We can't just abandon him here. We have to bring him with us, etc., etc. Which, you know, he's right, but you hate to admit that he's right for something like that.
Right.
It's like if you had Hitler as like a prisoner and you're carrying him along and you're running out of food, you still got to give him some food too until you all run out.
No, why? Why?
Because otherwise you're killing your prisoner, and that's not okay either.
Well, it's like what Batman said near the end of Batman Begins when he finally bested Ra's al Ghul, and he says something to Bruce about, do you finally have what it takes to yada yada yada, and Batman said, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you. So it's kind
Batman's
of like,
not exactly a good moral person. He's the Dark Knight.
It's true.
Right, true, but here's the thing, there's a difference. I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you. So there's that, and that was the same thing that I got.
Murder through inaction is still murder, man.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate to say, like I said, I hate to admit it, but I think he's right. Like, anyway, yeah.
I was a big fan of CSI Miami, and I only watched the first few seasons of it, and I thought Horatio was way cool. But I've been watching the last few seasons on a station here, and in the last few seasons, Horatio isn't just Batman. He's like evil Batman. Like, he shows up out of the blue when he shouldn't even be there, to corner the bad guy with a gun, and the bad guy's like, you're a cop, you have to take me in, and he doesn't get to finish his sentence because Horatio just shoots him in the face. And I'm like, dude, what happened to you? Why did you get so like, Urgh? So I'm kind of on the side of like Boimler here, where it's like, yes, you're right, he's a sentient thing, and it just makes sense. There's a great
and it's not like you have to
here.
give him any. You don't have to give him any food or anything to keep him alive. You just can't leave him behind, right? Like, he's not going to cost you any resources other than the weight of carrying him on your back, which is annoying, but
right. But they also make the greatest Time Zero reference of all time here, where they're like, just bury him like Data's head. It's like, well, Data's head was actually in a cave.
Yeah, it's actually.
I love these
not
references.
One of my favorite TNG references. I don't like that episode very much. It's too silly for me.
It is my favorite two-part episode of Star Trek The Next Generation ever. Mostly for nostalgia's sake. I was 9 when it came out, and I spent the entire summer watching the first part over and over and over and over and over, so that when the second part came out, I wouldn't have forgotten what happened. It was the first time I can recall learning about season finales and cliffhangers and stuff like that. I didn't know what those things were. My mom had to explain them to me, and I remember crying to be like, wait, it's gone? Like, it's off the air? And like, no, it'll come back when the season gets renewed. Well, what do I do until then? You wait. What do you mean I wait?
Oh, man.
Data's stuck at 1893. I can't wait 3 months.
Right.
So, you know, maybe there's a little bit of trauma there.
That was a new concept for a lot of us. Is in early TV, I don't recall a lot of cliffhangers. I mean, Empire Strikes Back, I consider a cliffhanger, and there's also
yeah, but you were like 3 when Empire came out.
Sure.
There's a lot of good like writing up about how the Best of Both Worlds cliffhanger is not only one of the greatest cliffhangers of all time, but also the cliffhanger that started the trope of cliffhanger endings for a season.
I definitely acknowledge the cultural significance of Best of Both Worlds. I do believe that is the superior cliffhanger, but that would be my more objective perspective. Whereas for my personal perspective, Time Zero, if it's on, I will watch it. Like, I don't care if I'm in the realm of my worst enemy. If they put it on, I'm getting killed.
Have you ever seen or heard something, be it in a movie, TV show, or whatever, that just makes your skin feel like it's suddenly on fire? Like on the outside, on the inside, it's just this sudden, I don't know what it is. Like you're...
In a good way?
No, not like a... It doesn't hurt. But I'm just saying, like, it's just this whole, feels like electricity or something in there. And,
yes. Like you're just excited for watching more kind of thing?
Right, right. So I remember the first time that Best of Both Worlds Part One, and I really didn't. Besides Empire Strikes Back, the concept of a cliffhanger was just not something that I was used to. I mean, I'm sure there were some 2-part episodes of the Transformers or maybe G.I. Joe or whatever, things like that. But so then the way the episode ended, just with that ominous music and the turn towards Riker and giving Worf the order to fire.
Fire.
And then it, goes to the big bass music and the to be continued.
Dun, dun.
I stood there and I stood there for a few minutes thinking, if I just keep standing here, it will start.
We'll
go to the next scene.
We'll get it
And you know
back.
what else I did that was completely crazy? I don't know why I thought this would work, but I rewound the VHS tape a little bit and played it again, thinking it would keep going. Makes no sense at all. And Best of Both Worlds Part 1, what was that? Spring of
1990.
90? Okay, spring of 90. So, yeah, I mean, I was 13. So we're not talking little kid. It didn't compute. The way that episode ended.
Look at this guy bragging about having a VHS in 1990. Ugh.
I was 3. I think I had toys.
You guys don't know it. Try dialing a rotary phone. Get one of those. Dig, 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 one. Dig, 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 dig,
So,
dig, dig, three.
anyways, going back to this episode, rather than our little retrospective here. So they start their journey through the desert. This is where we see that neat scene that I mentioned before that looks straight out of Force Awakens, where they just kind of like ride down the sand dune. Really cool musical cues. They have a bit more banter back and forth between Mariner and Boimler, where they are definitely showing some tension towards each other, and Agamus is also very attentively listening and picking up on these frustration bits. And they end up finding a tree. At this tree, there appear to be fruit. The fruit look like papayas or something, right? Well, Mariner starts wanting to go climb it, but she's got a literal broken arm, so Boimler does not allow her to do so. And Boimler says that he picked up bouldering or rock climbing on the Titan.
Yep.
So he's going to give it a try. He makes it a good, 80% of the way there, and then grabs the wrong branch. It snaps, and he goes down with the branch. It's about what you expect. Mariner makes fun of him a little bit, and then he kicks the tree out of frustration, which coincidentally makes the 4 little pods just fall off the tree. But unfortunately, they taste just like black licorice. So they
The
have to,
irony of
debate it.
ironies.
Yeah, they actually consider not drinking it, but they've got nothing else.
Well,
Wow.
but nothing else is still on the table. If it's,
Yeah, if you need it, you do it.
I don't know, man. I'd need to be pretty close, I
mean-
think, to finally give in and drink that.
I mean, I
Agamus
spent the
rubs
whole
it in
day
too,
here.
right? Agamus is rubbing it in here too.
Mhm.
He's just like, oh, if we'd stayed at the shuttle, I could have fixed your replicator. You could have a cheeseburger.
Or
It's
blueberry
like
muffins or guacamole.
guacamole. Yeah. So they bury him in the sand.
Buried alive.
Sorry, I keep reaching for my little drink here and keep hitting my freaking microphone. So,
But then
try
while
wondering.
they're sleeping, crabs start to take off with Amigas. Boimler wakes up. I'm surprised they don't try to capture the crabs. That probably would be some good nutrition.
Agreed.
Some bioluminescent eyeballs. Those can't hurt anything.
Well, yeah, crab's got some meat in it. If they have a source for fire, I don't know you'd want to eat those raw, but
You can eat crab raw. You can have crab in sushi all the time.
but the crab is cooked,
In sushi? I don't think so.
isn't it?
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah, the crab is.
Yes, the crab.
I mean, it's not saying that it's hot, just that it's cooked.
as
You're not.
a sushi aficionado, all of my crab is cooked in my sushi when
Yeah.
I eat it. But the other fish things like salmon, yellowfish, those things are not.
Right.
Okay, whatever. I'm not actually sure. I thought it was raw, but whatever. So yeah, so he's being carried away by these little crab things. Boimler goes to save him, and Agamus decides that as a thank you for for saving him. He's going to show him the truth that Mariner's been lying to him and hiding from him. And he projects a hologram of Mariner talking to Ransom and getting him reassigned from the first mission to Dansk, instead going with her to the Daystrom Institute. Ransom doesn't seem to care. For Ransom, it's just an offhand thing, but Brad doesn't handle this well. And he goes back and yells at Mariner.
And this is where we get more of that Mariner, like, pincers and claws and things. Those are, ugh.
Oh, you know what just occurred to me? Now that I think about this, I think this was another one of those Mariner wants Boimler to be with her. Whether it's I don't know what it is. If it's just he's like her first real friend in a while, or because they're such opposites that the opposites attract. I'm not saying that I'm predicting a romantic thing happening here. It seems to be that Mariner certainly puts in the effort to get that time with Brad. I mean, this is not the first occasion, and now she has literally like set up a change in orders for her and him to be on a away mission together.
Maybe. I don't know. This scene is really cool. They've got this whole like polar vortex thing going on in the sky behind them, the Aurora Borealis looking thing. Really neat, probably because of the gravimetric shear or something, or radiation belts hitting the planet. Looks really cool. Definitely good job on the animators. The thing that I noticed really neat about the scene is that for the first time, I think, we see Brad wearing his uniform the way Mariner always wears hers, with the sleeves rolled up and the breasts slightly open, which is how she's pretty chill all the time.
Well, now he's in the right conditions to do it.
Right. He's not on the ship, and he's not like in defiance of uniform orders and such. Right. But it is interesting that in this situation, we have Brad being the brash one who's trying to be more aggressive, and she's trying to be more defensive, and suddenly he's now the one wearing her costume, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, I changed my prediction. I think that there is going to be some kind of romance build-up between those two. You heard it here first. Heard it here first, folks.
We'll see. I think we can have good platonic relationships without having that.
I'm not a fan of roommate relationships like that, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So we cut back to the Monaveen, and on the Monaveen, we've got Rutherford and Billups under some heavy machinery. They are tuning some devices, and Rutherford is just kissing butt to his superior officer, telling him that he is impressed with how fast Billups is recalibrating things. And then suddenly Billups goes, "Wait a minute," and then figures out the case. He replaces a resonator, and the plasma starts flowing properly. The whole thing is fixed. Paolana declares that the Royal Navy is saved because all the ships are struggling with the same problem. And so, cheers from the crew for Billups and Rutherford. Yay. Cool. She admits she's impressed, but she won't say she's proud.
Hard to please parent.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can't do anything right.
But I mean, again, knowing this episode, this is all just part of the grift. Like, she's she's doing that parental abuse of withholding the affirmation in order to manipulate the child into doing what they want.
Exactly.
Which is aggravating, to say the least. But in that moment, his captain pages him to her ready room.
Yep, and Freeman does this specifically just to give him an excuse to get away, thinking that, just to get away from the usual antics of Paolana. But Billups admits that, maybe it was different this time. She finally respects me. She understands why I do what I do. And Billups is all optimistic. He's totally bought into her shtick. He has been successfully gaslighted by his own mother. And that's when something happens on the Monaveen. They look out the window, and there's a gigantic explosion that rips a hole in the side of the Monaveen, to their horror. Now it's the whale toy.
How many toys does Tuvix have?
That's classified information, sir. No, we could respond, but it would just be gibberish. We can't respond to anything but gibberish.
If you stay with our video long enough to the end, we'll show you. We'll give you an appearance of Tuvix, Renzo's little dog.
Not so little anymore. He's like 45
That's going to
pounds
be the
now.
only reason people like stay to the end. Tuvix!
To see the dog, yeah.
We do a really good review of this stuff, but also there's a dog at the end.
Well, so we cut back to Freeman and Billups rushing to the Monavine. The crew are all freaked out. There are people like weighing themselves against the sides. There are people like patched and bruised. Like it all looks bad. And they tell us that Paolon is dead. And they do the whole long live the Queen is dead thing. And they also report that Rutherford is also dead.
Yeah, this is Ta'ana's only appearance in this episode, where she reveals to Tendi that Rutherford is listed as a casualty of this explosion, which drives Tendi to doubt that Rutherford is actually dead.
No. At first, she's certain. She seems ready to cry. She gets that realization a bit later. At this point, she's just like, this is all my fault. I convinced him to go to the Monavine. It's very much guilt at first.
Right.
It's only later when she realizes that his implant isn't in space that she starts to get suspicious.
Well, because the implant wouldn't have survived an explosion like that, or could it have?
Most likely
IDK.
not.
Yeah, I don't think so, but tough to say.
Right.
All right, so that ends that.
It takes us to the ground of the world that Mariner and Boimler are stuck on. And they find a ship and slide down.
Which, again, straight out of Force Awakens. Here, I just want to point out, this might be unintentional. Maybe it's an intentional reference.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to guess on this one, but the ship that they're jumping down or sliding down towards looks straight like a Higaran carrier from Homeworld 2. Really, really, really close.
See,
looks
you
just
said
like
that,
them.
and I went for Voyager's dorsal saucer section with some little gun sticking out of the front of it.
And I haven't played this game.
But that's me,
So-
I don't see that.
because I also have not played this game.
I will put a picture in our chat so you can see what I mean.
Homeworld 2? Okay.
Special features. But I also think that like the robot here is like, just plug me in. I'll open the doors for you. It'll be fine. And
Yeah, as soon as they
Mariner's
get to, like, a sealed
no,
hatch."
we're not gonna do this. And she's like, and Boimler's like, we should. I guess I could kind of see that, Renzo. Little Higaran ship there.
Oh, okay. Interesting ship.
But Mariner
the-
is. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I think that the scene is actually really well shot too, right? Like, they show you that there's still so many more ships all over. Like, there are things that look almost like mountain ranges in the distance, but they're just more ships. It's just a planet littered in the corpses of ships all over, basically.
Yep.
Would be a great find for an archaeologist team. Come back to this planet, dig things up.
It would. I'm sure they've got it.
If
They'd
they
get
could
it cataloged and sent to a science
If
vessel.
they could survive the gravimetric shear and the crash landing, right? Sure fine thing. But Mariner is like absolutely against letting this robot plug into the ship for any reason. She's just like, we'll find another ship that has working stuff that has open doors.
Right.
And Boimler is like, no, give them to me. I'm gonna do the stuff. And Mariner accuses him of being naive and unable to do the hard stuff. And Boimler actually tackles her and fights her and gets mad at her for having reassigned him. And
He punches her, she kicks him in the jaw. Like, it's good stuff there.
Right. And then he pulls a phaser on her. He's like, don't touch Amigas. And she's like, oh, please. Like, you would ever have the guts to. And he just stuns her.
You don't have the balls to
Straight
shoot.
up done. Stunned.
He picks up Agmas and goes right into the ship after, little tendrils of cables plug in and open the door for him. In they go.
So we're getting the second episode in a row here where Mariner is taught a thing or two.
Sorry, I completely flubbed that
she's also down an arm too, right? Like with her arm, I think she could have easily handled him.
She's down an arm, and that makes sense. But also the fact that she's down an arm at all is still indicative that Mariner hasn't seen everything out there. She hasn't done everything out there. She might be very hardy and very resistant, but it took a crash landing into a planet to break her humerus. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, wasn't it last episode we talked about how she's getting frazzled and frayed by all the anomaly collection, and
she just hates that job. Yeah.
Again, it just shows that Mariner is not the best at everything, and the fact that Boimler one-ups her here is a huge change for their relationship.
Yep. Another beautiful external scene. Oh no, go ahead.
That doesn't happen too often. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, so we cut to another external scene. We've got another scene of the Cerritos docked alongside the Monaveen, and here we get another good detail of that ship, where we get some more details that we hadn't seen before. We see these cool little ringed circles around their warp nacelles, which look straight out of like a 1960s rocket ship design, like pulp sci-fi rockets. The hull...
retrofuturism.
Exactly. The hull of the Monaveen itself has like this dragon scale kind of look with like quadriculated squares that look like scales. Love it. Everything about this ship's design is like top notch. I want it in Star Trek Online. If you can make that happen, make it happen.
Right. Give us our Monaveen.
Yeah. So we go back inside the ship, and Billups is reporting to Freeman in her ready room, and he is resigning his commission because he now must go be the king of his people, and he is escorted by the 2 guards that had been the Queen's guards just a few minutes before.
Sorry, Captain, I gotta go get laid.
He's gonna go lose his beloved virginity.
Yeah. I would think wouldn't he be excited? Like,
that depends on the people's culture, right? Like, he may be ace. Like, asexual people don't really look forward to having sex, even if they, like, have to for some reason, right? Who knows? I don't want to guess. It looks like he's treasured his freedom more than his ability to have sex. So just the fact that he's been free to live his life his way, yeah.
Well, you can have sex and live your life your way. If you want to screw
not
that up,
in his rules.
Right, not in his rules. But they say the worst thing you can do with a happy relationship is get married. The second worst thing you can do is have kids. So as long as he doesn't get betrothed or give someone a baby, he should be all right. But he probably doesn't want to deal with any of that. And he's got his hobbies. He's got his career. And
so he's got to go perform the royal copulation. That's what they called it.
And
they skip foreplay.
As they leave, Phillips literally asks if it's going to hurt. Not only has he never had sex, it doesn't seem like he has watched much of it either. He doesn't have any idea what the hell goes on. So it's truly a very monastic, celibate kind of asexual lifestyle. So
freaking, it just gets so much worse for him.
Cool. Cut to our next scene, and here's where we have Tendi now realizing that, hold on a second, maybe he's not as dead as I thought, because she looks up the location of his implant, and it's in a different location of the ship. Now, cool thing happens in this scene. In this scene, we get a very tight view of the Master Ship Systems display for the Monaveen.
Yep.
And we get to see that there is a stable where there are many, many horses. We see that there is actually a dragon on the ship because there's a dragon there. Yeah, it's pretty neat because we know that on the original Enterprise D MSD, there was like a giant duck, there was a TARDIS, there was an airplane in it, right? Because they just hid all these in-jokes inside of it because it was too small to ever see. But now with the technology of 4K resolutions, we can see them all. And,
we also get to see the Vol-like engine apparatus that leads to the energy transference to whatever
the cells.
The nacelle equivalent. And it is really interesting to see the horses and the dragon, and it's
a pretty neat scene.
It's great.
Yeah, as a ship nerd, I love anytime they show me a Master Ship Systems display close up. It's just fun.
Well, the one other time I recall dragons being mentioned in Star Trek was a Enterprise episode, and it was the what you'd leave, not what you'd leave behind. These are the voyages. T'Pol was talking about this life form they found scanned on a planet, and I'm paraphrasing, of course. Archer goes take a look, and the conversation they have is that basically that life form of the planet would be seen as dragons by humans. So it was like it was a planet of what we consider dragons. I just thought it was a thing. Interesting.
That's a good callback. I didn't think about that.
Yep.
So, fun fact, there's actually a 1993 TNG novel called Here There Be Dragons, where Riker and Data literally find a planet with a hidden human colony on it, right? Where they've gone to the world of knights and serfs, and they have actual native dragon wizards. Now, I don't know if this episode borrowed from it. I don't know, but I do deeply suspect it. It's an episode that was, a book that was written by John Peel, and I haven't had a chance to look up to see if John Peel was involved in the production of this episode, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was.
Wow. Deep cut.
Cool.
There's your memory beta deep cut for the day. Cool. All right, so cutting back to our episode.
To our planet, Mariner.
We've got
down
Mariner, PTFO'd, and just coming to realizing that Boimler did this to her. She sees the door open and chases them in.
Boimler, you idiot! And Boimler, meanwhile, is making his way to the bridge of the ship, where there is a curiously horned individual dead in the chair there. I almost thought it was a Mugato, but I mean, no.
I'm the only one.
But
so was this a single man
Boimler,
ship?
I don't know if it's a single person ship, but it's the only corpse
Way
we
too
get
big.
to see.
Yeah.
But Boimler plugs him in.
Boimler tells him that he's plugging him into the navigation console so that he can get online. And Boimler goes that there's not enough power here, so Agamus offers to power the systems for him using his own internal power cell. That's when Boimler plugs him in. And then his little tentacles start swishing around like he's a little bacterium, like a little flagella or something, and he is all excited about getting the chance to take control of the ship. And all the lights start to turn back on as he does.
Yep. And we
Cut back to Tendi.
Yep.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we have the cliche evil villain moment before we flash back to the scene change.
It was so good. So we go to the scene change with Tendi, and she is wandering the halls of the Monavine starship, and she is seeing another hallway with more knights in suits of armor on the walls, and she finds the party. And in that party, she finds Rutherford, who's not dead as a doorknob.
Weird.
He's just having a good old time. Oh, wait, Paolana's there too. What's going on?
How is she not dead?
Yeah, they're having a
party.
grand feast of mutton.
Mutton. What is mutton? I've never had mutton.
It's lamb, I think.
Oh, no,
I think
maybe
it's
I have.
sheep or goat, but yeah.
Yeah. It's a cut of some kind of agrarian livestock. And
Yeah.
interesting moment here, Rutherford is totally clueless about
Having been dead?
any kind of explosion. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to him. He's
Yeah, and
just
as soon as they
like,
call out Paolana about it, she immediately admits to it. We're just doing this to get my son laid, and he'll be king tomorrow, kind of thing, right? And that she brags that her guards are trained not to perform foreplay.
Right, they just go straight for it. But the way that she says it, it's not about like, oh, we're making sure that he is, consecrating his status as our king. No, he's very much at this very moment is destroying his virginity. Like that's a picture painted.
Yep.
Honestly, I don't know who the voice actress was for Paolana, but it reminds me a lot of the dragon from Shrek, from the first Shrek.
Yeah.
The dragon didn't really speak in that movie, so I don't think it's the same voice actress or anything. But like the way the mannerisms work for that character, super reminds me of him.
Mm-hmm.
But
Why
yeah,
would they-
so
Why would they skip foreplay? Like, I mean, come on. That's part of it.
That's
So it's
trained
not-
not to do it.
interesting.
it's just about getting the P and the V or something to get the job done, and then he's king. He can't turn it down. After that, maybe they'll have some fun, but it's just about getting the copulation going, the royal copulation.
Okay.
So the actress, who plays Queen Billups is June Diane Raphael, and going back through her IMDb, I'm going slowly because I'm like trying to build up anticipation to see if she actually was in Shrek. And I hate to break it to you, she's not in Shrek.
Cool. So the other neat thing that happens is as soon as they realize what's going on, Rutherford tries to hail the Cerritos, and the lute player jams out on his lute, and it jams the comm signals. Again, going forth with this whole, like, he's not a bard, it's not magic, they're just using technology in a way that looks more like magic. It's neat, but it's not magic.
Did you catch the music that was playing by the bard in that scene?
I did not. What was it?
It's a TOS fight theme.
Oh, I have to go back and listen to it then.
Yeah.
I missed that.
It's pretty cool. My
But played
little
by a
girls
flute.
are trained from birth to skip foreplay, which is horrible. Like, trained from birth? Wait, hold up. What's happening here, Alabama?
So now Rutherford and Tendi like shove their way past the guy and out the door. They're trying to get back across the docking port to get back on the Cerritos. They run. And
There's a clip of Billups in his quarters with the two guards who are now mostly undressed, and Billups is looking very nervous. But
there are
decides
rose petals on the bed. They are very seductively posed. There is stocking lace and a thong. Like, they have set this up for him. He just needs to choose which one or both and just do the deed.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out who's going to be the bologna in that sandwich.
Oh boy, Billups.
I don't know. I'm not even going to go there.
Hey, it's part of Bi Visibility Day. I'm glad that they had a little bit of like Bi Visibility in this episode. They gave Billups both choices for it, right?
Hey.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so
He'll bring down a threesome, right?
there's plenty of people who are not comfortable with it, but like, man, it's he's losing his virginity. Losing your virginity in a threesome is probably a bit traumatic.
Yeah. Maybe, maybe a little bit, but maybe Mom didn't know which way he swung, or maybe that's just how they do it on the planet that they're from.
Yeah, they might be libertines. Maybe every copulation involves three, right? Like, who knows?
Now,
it might be like the Novulans.
If any part of this ceremony or procedure called for the mother to be in the room, even sitting in a chair observing, I would have dipped out. Like, nope, we're good here. Sweet home Alabama.
No, I don't need that image in my brain.
Haven't you boys seen Handmaid's Tale? Haven't you seen what they do with the wives and the handmaids in that movie or in the show?
No, I know of this. I know of the story. I've seen like bits and pieces.
Don't think I can stomach it.
It's
I know
rough.
what you're talking about.
It's rough. But yeah, okay, so we cut to some more back and forth scenes of like sexy time preparations and Billups looking terrified, and then Rutherford running through the ship, racing to get there. They have this hilarious moment where Billups finally drops trow, and both the guards are like, "Oh, it's huge! It's exciting!" Like they're setting up for it, and Rutherford finally makes it there, bashes his shoulder into the door. Second time to try and bash through, the door opens, he falls in, and the two guards are sitting on the bed looking like fucking disappointed, just waiting for things to go on.
Did his kingdom come?
Such a good line.
Officer, this man right here.
But Billups is in the bathroom. There's a bathroom on Cerritos. Billups has one.
I'm sure all the senior staff have their proper big quarters. In fact, we get our first look at Billups' quarters here, and we see that he has like a ton of ship schematics on his walls as well.
Yeah.
Right? So like he is a consummate chief engineer. He's that. So
well, and it looks like he's had a little bit of trouble
performance
getting
anxiety.
his soldier at attention. But
first time performance anxiety.
Well, but still, there's got to be a hypo spray for everything.
As Scotty once said, you can't even recrystallize the lithium in this century.
Listen, so maybe it's by prescription still only, Big J, and he didn't want to talk to Ta'ana at the time.
Oh,
I'm sure Pfizer has made it through the Third World War.
Triagra.
Though I will say this, I'm surprised that the two guards didn't have something for that with them.
Yes, there you go. They're prepared. They would walk in with stuff ready to go, like, "Hey, buddy, you need a little pick me
Nah,
up.
but I think
Take
that's
this."
totally relatable.
Yeah, no, it's anxiety from just performance,
Totally
right?
a
Like that
moment
shit
that's
happens.
like, this is your
Yes,
first
it's relatable.
time. You're being
We've all
confronted
been
with
there.
some major stress. This is definitely intimidating.
One of his friends and subordinates just died. He's under a ton of pressure. His mom just died. He's going to be king tomorrow.
Right.
All this stress and pressure, and now he's also got to get it going, right?
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's understandable.
Did he have chance to trim or shave his pubes? Has he showered? Gotten?
We don't know if he has those things, so
Got to get yourself presentable. You want to feel pretty the first time you do this, right?
we don't know if he has pubes. Honestly, he may be hairless.
Oh, come on, Renzo. See,
Listen,
here's the
you
line.
brought it up.
Here's
up.
the line,
You
and you're
brought
the
it up.
blitzing linebacker that's got to just go.
You
over
brought
the
it up.
line.
All right. Anyways, moving on. Rutherford tells him that it's all been a trick. His mom's alive, etc., and they celebrate with like a "I get to keep my virginity" moment. So
And
I
we
just
celebrate
think
that.
it's silly. The whole
Cool
thing
little
is just
cheers. The guards are on the bed like, oh crap, we've been foiled again.
I don't see what the problem is. I mean, the two of them are still there. Let's make a day of it.
We don't need to waste this bed just because the king doesn't want to do anything.
Yeah, don't waste a good bed. It's
Yeek.
been made. The sheets are clean.
So we cut back to the planet with Boimler and Agamus plugged in, and Mariner makes it to the bridge, and she is clearly annoyed that he plugged in the Agamus into the computer. And here's where we have our masterful villain moment, which makes up the background that Big J's got.
Yep, Agamus
Yep.
does his super villainous Ultron scheme, but then they wise up. They wise up, and she's like, "I told you," and he's like, "Nope, I've only been using your power cell to send a distress signal. You're plugged into the dimmer switch. You've been boimed."
And then the robot's like, "I will blind you."
Yep, and he's got no clue what's going on here.
I mean, it was a very funny scene. Oh, did you catch that there were symbols on the distress signal?
I did, but I didn't recognize what those symbols were.
I am 50-50. No, I'm like 80% sure that they're symbols out of Stargate, actually.
I was totally
it's-
thinking the same
looked like
thing.
that.
They look like chevrons from Stargate. Yeah,
I'm pretty
okay.
sure they're like slight variations on the chevrons from the Stargate.
Totally.
Chevron 2, activate.
Totally.
Locked and encoded. Big
Yeah.
J.
Locked and encoded. Yep.
Yep,
that's
Chevron 2 is encoded. Chevron 2 is locked in place. But they only have that extended locking in sequence once, and then every other time it's like, just dial it up. Bing, 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 done.
I mean,
Even
in the
though
movie,
they don't
it
have a
took, like, 20
DHD.
minutes.
Even though they don't have a DHD.
Right.
But we're
Yeah.
The
going
movie took
way-
20 minutes. They can't put that in every episode. Dag.
Right, exactly. You need to speed this up.
I suppose.
All right, so we get to this great realization where Agamus is like totally like, "Fuck, I've been tricked. I didn't see
Yep.
that coming." He's clearly very frustrated. He flicks the lights on and off. He's enraged. He tries to blind them, like Dag said.
Yeah.
And it's just
And-
goofy.
But Boimler pulls a Kirk here. He outsmarts an artificial intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
And Mariner is actually proud and impressed as well.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good
So
moment.
he apologizes for like having to stun her, but he was doing it to trick the computer, etc., etc. All makes sense.
There was a point you made about Boimler kind of channeling Kirk and outsmarting artificial intelligence. There was a TOS episode. Kirk Kirk, Spock, McCoy down on the planet. There were two nations that were warring against each other, and
Is that the Yangs and the Cones?
I believe it was
Or Aminiar and Vendikar.
something like that. Wasn't it kind of the same thing? There was this.
Oh, the one where
This
there was the
robot.
robot that wanted them to sacrifice themselves because it was an artificial
Oh, the
intelligence.
suicide booths?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't really shooting guns or lasers or whatever. It was simulated.
Yeah,
so,
simulated nuke strikes from one planet to the other.
And you
Right.
just
Everybody was just
randomly
expected
select.
to...
Yeah.
Yeah, computers select who goes into the suicide booth, and you're just supposed to go in and get yourself zapped.
Yep.
Yeah, you're a casualty.
Yeah.
I
Your
hated
ship
that
was a
episode.
casualty, too. Check yourselves in. I love that episode. I thought it was great.
No,
Yeah.
I love it because of that, but I'm just like, I hate the concept of that actually happening here. Like, dystopian fiction so much serving as a roadmap for, elected officials to follow.
World War III is going to be fought in cyberspace.
It already
it's going to
is
be
being
an
spot-
online
We're going to look at back
technology, yeah.
retrospectively, I don't want to talk about the real world. I want to talk about Star Trek.
Yeah, Star Trek's more fun. All right, so we cut back to a scene in the engineering where Tendi is apologizing to Rutherford, and there's a little party for Billups, who's now back, and his mom shows up as well. It's this whole thing. Tendi is apologizing because she feels bad for tricking him, but Rutherford doesn't feel bad about going.
There's a cake on engineering. It's beautiful. But he's putting his foot down about how he loves Star Trek and he doesn't want to deal with the crap that, she's going to put up with.
Wait, that he loves Starfleet?
Yeah.
You said that he loves Star Trek?
He does, though. He loves trekking through the stars. He's just
Right.
some kind of astronaut on a weird Star Trek.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say it. I tried to say it first. You beat me to it. They're all astronauts on some sort of Star Trek.
It's the only time those words have been uttered in Star Trek.
Yep.
Which I think is enough. We don't need to make that joke more often. That'd get too tiresome.
That's a one-off. You got one chance.
Mm-hmm. All right, so then we cut back to the planet, and we don't actually cut back to the planet. We cut right back to a shuttle/runabout. I think it's runabout. That is going through the gravimetric shear, has picked up Boimler, Mariner, and Agamus, and they are already being fed some warm coffee or tea by, I think he's a Napian alien or a Napian officer, and they're having a good old time. With Agamus still apologizing and saying that they can trust him, and he's going to delete his manipulative subroutines and ask to be taken to Starfleet Academy so he can apply to be a Starfleet officer like Data, essentially.
Like he wouldn't be like 7 of 9.
I could be the next
like
7 of 9. Agamus of 1, and they drop him at the self-aware megalomaniacal computer storage, which, if you can see my screen, we apparently run into self-aware megalomaniacal computers a little too often. Which,
they're like lockers at the gym. They
Did
just
you-
put them in there.
it's probably
really
not even
liked-
that often. It's just too much.
Yeah.
One of those things that's
So-
like, it's weird. It's not that it happened often, but it's weird that it happened twice. Like, look behind me. There's like 40 computers here. And you can see right here, the CBSI is one of them.
Uh-huh. One of those
And
looks like
then
my gaming rig.
There's a Batman one, like, right there.
Where's the
Just-
Batman?
It
one?
looks like Batman.
Yeah.
Oh.
Renzo
If
pointed
you
that
actually
one
zoom
out.
in close to it, it's almost got it's got like a mouth shape to it too, right? It's just something to point out. The actual Daystrom Institute itself, we see it from the outside, looks a lot like the one that we saw in Picard, but less developed because it's a few decades before, which makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
So there's good continuity there. Visual continuity is important for me, so good that they kept that up. And yeah, I think the fact that they have a whole locker for megalomaniacal computers is amazing.
I looked at that scene and I even rewound it because I said, I am sure that there's going to be something in here that was from another episode or series, something. But I didn't see any. I missed the CBS thing, but besides that, none of them were any captured callbacks from any other show.
I think
in
the
the
CBS
series.
thing is the best catch possible there. I
Sure.
didn't catch it the first time around. Dad called it out for me, and it's perfect. That is like the most deep cut. There are some things on there that look like things out of Mario. There's a computer that looks like it's from Tron.
Yeah.
There's a Hyrule looking one. Like there's all sorts of symbology out there that looks like it's stuff from other games, which is great. One of them looks like something from Mass Effect, like Edie. Another one looks like a Halo computer, right? Like they've got good depth there. But I don't think that they're anything too specific. I don't think that they want to risk getting sued. So
Right. Yeah, there's that.
now, in honor of this scene, though, I did wear this hat, and I'm not usually much of a hat guy, but I've got my Cylon hat on, which I think is pretty appropriate.
Oh, that is cool.
So I think that that's right in a similar vein to this scene.
Where'd you get that at?
I got it from Loot Crate, actually, today.
Oh, you did? Okay.
It was very lucky timing.
Yeah.
All
that's
of this
cool. You got a
has happened
Cylon
before and will happen again. So say we all.
So say
You know
we
what
are.
was missing from this scene? One that had the Facebook symbol. That would have been perfect.
Oh.
That would have gotten them sued, though. But still.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. You're right.
Yeah, I
You're
think that
right.
would have been crossing the line right there.
What I really liked about this episode was the fact that even though the stakes felt significant and the urgency was still there, it wasn't like it was the end of the world. And I think
Right.
we pointed this out with Discovery, is that Discovery is always the end of the world. And the first season, it's the Mirror Universe, and the second season, it's Control, and the third season, it's, Osira. This was like, this is just a standard run-of-the-mill thing. We're going to get through this, and it's going to be okay. And even though, there was like a faked death and a crashed shuttle, it worked out just fine. It had that level of levity that made it feel real.
So that's exactly what I wanted to talk about, and that's why I love this episode. Let's look at Picard Season 1, let's look at Discovery Season 2, and let's look at this one episode, right? They
Yeah.
all deal deeply with the possibility of a self-aware AI that could bring about great turmoil and destruction.
Yep.
In Picard, it's the focus of the entire season. It is about this one colony of AIs and cyborgs and just androids on a planet that are evolving and developing with their creators still, so they're not entirely on their own, and there's a risk that they will doom the entire galaxy. Cool. We've got Control, which is a self-aware, though not fully sentient AI that wants to become more empowered. It wants to develop itself further, as Data wants to do too. But in this case, it's searching for a specific form of information, the red sphere data that Discovery has on it, again, to become omnipowerful and take over the galaxy. And now here we've got Agnes, a computer that succeeded in destroying an entire planet, had its grip over its civilization for 100 years, and the people overthrew it, probably with some Starfleet intervention. It's not entirely clear. It's probable, though. And then I just want to compare it to an episode from TOS, like Vol, for example, is a good one, or what's the asteroid one? Nagini, Narindi, whatever. The asteroid that they live inside of the hollow asteroid, led by a computer as well.
Right.
For the world is hollow and I have touched the sky is the name of the episode.
Right.
If you look at the way that Star Trek treats evil AIs that go rogue and do bad things, I feel like the standard is more like this episode. It's more like Where Pleasant Fountains Lie, and less like these big overarching end of the galaxy, end of the universe things. And I don't like the fact that Discovery and Picard went so big on something that we've covered so thoroughly in Trek before. We've had dozens of computer AIs that can destroy everything, and then they're handled. It happens. We've had V'ger. V'ger's probably the most terrifying one of them all. It became larger than a solar system. It had the power output of dozens and dozens of supernova, and it could have wiped out the Earth in a blink of an eye. They handled it. They figured it out, and they grew from it. They gained information from it, right? Now we've got something that is, I would argue, less scary, the Capellian, relatives of Data, and they're willing to send a whole fleet to wipe them out, like the Romulans or the Vash, right? It doesn't really gel with me. It seems like too much, right? I think that the way that they presented things in Picard and in Discovery in dealing with these AIs was just, They made too big of a deal out of it. Like, it doesn't fit for me in the universe.
Well, but the synth destroyed the Utopia Planitia yards on Mars, and basically and lost the entire rescue fleet for Romulus. And that's not the first time that androids or synth have taken over things. Look at how many times Data was able to single-handedly take control of the Enterprise. That's the Federation's flagship. So you already have this inherent thought of danger with these things because of their capability. And if they get reprogrammed, mind controlled, whatever it is, you're going to have a very hard time getting the situation back under control. So the fact that there was a colony of dozens of these found, well, yeah, you're not going to pull any punches. You're going to send your entire fleet, make sure to get it done, nuke the entire site from orbit.
I just don't agree, right? Like, on a scale thing, right? We're talking about one planet that wasn't known to anybody's location until like very late in Picard season 1 that it even existed. The Romulans just didn't know where it was. We've got a very large galaxy. There's got to be another planet out there of where an Agamas or an Agamas-like device, one took over and doesn't have any humanoids there anymore. He won. He's taken it over. He's not expanding, and he's developing. He is advancing every single day. He is growing his computational power.
Yeah.
No one knows where he might be. No one knows where those are. There are enough of these megalomaniacal computers that there's got to be one of them somewhere. That should be just as terrifying as the Capellians, and yet that doesn't pop up. It just seems like they made such a big deal about the Capellians and about like Control maybe has more justification because it was literally in the Federation. But yeah, it just seems like they freaked out or made this world-ending story about it for something that should have been more commonplace. The galaxy's very big. There's no way to catch every single civilization that wipes itself out with its own AI. There's just too many of them, right? And any one of them could be the one that lets through the Shai Hulud, the red tendrils or whatever they were, Kachalagu or whatever it was.
Yeah, Cthulhu.
Yeah, they were machine Cthulhu from space.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing. We're putting ourselves in such a situation or position where AI is going to take over, and it's one of those things where you see it coming, you know it's going to happen, and you go there anyway.
Yeah. What do you think, Dag? I ranted there for a bit. What have you got?
I really enjoyed the rant. I thought that it was well thought, and you're right. Like, Star Trek needs to move away from horrific world-ending AIs as seasonal plots.
It just seems lazy. We've had enough of it. We've got other shows. All of Westworld is AI trying to end the world, right?
Right. We got season 2 of Discovery and Picard back to back. Like, it's time to move away from
world-ending, universe-ending stuff.
It's just time to move away from AI as the threat. People need to be the threat again. And I think
people make more interesting villains.
People do, and I think Osira was a nice start, and I think there can be more out there that helps. You know, it's the whole Scooby-Doo effect, right? Scooby-Doo taught us that the real monsters were people, and that gives us a healthy sense of, you know, skepticism about people in the world and
Scooby-Doo.
How to deal with them. And yes, Scooby-Doo looks like he's eating Badgie. Just the little star guy.
If you're wondering,
that's another great example. That's another fantastic example of an AI that's gone crazy that could have been a huge problem. Badgie could have been terrifying if he'd gotten full control over the Cerritos' computer, right?
Right.
He seems as manipulative and as intelligent as any one of these megalomaniacal computers, right?
Right.
And yet, he was a 2-episode plot. He wasn't a galaxy-shattering possibility. Same thing for Moriarty. Moriarty was probably even more terrifying. Moriarty managed to essentially trick the ship's computer into doing things for him, right? He was outsmarting Data.
Yeah.
Data is the prototype for these androids that are on Coppelius, right? He's certainly more advanced than Control was, right? And well, no aliens came out of red portals to grab Moriarty off the Enterprise D, right? You get my metaphor, so
right? Yeah. Well, and even the Enterprise D like begat some kind of intelligence.
Yeah.
And
It had a kid.
the tentacle demons didn't come after it either. Or Doc Octopus from 2004 Spider-Man. That's what we can call them too.
The Kalagu, right? Demons, according to the Romulan
myth.
mythology.
Yeah.
Those tropes that you guys were just talking about reminded me of this. So, since the quarantine last year, been working from home since then, and working from home is really now's the permanent thing. Well, I've been able to catch up on a lot of Netflix, a lot of movies, series, all kinds of stuff. And one of the interesting things I've noticed is that this is the biggest trope. Every single movie or show that has to deal with any kind of alien or monster invasion, it's always our $1 trillion budget military that folds within, say, the first week, and Earth is conquered. Like, okay, I get that you have the technology to travel to another planet like Earth, but for once, just for once, can't they depict the military as being like, oh, you came to the wrong place, and the aliens get their asses kicked, and there's battles that look more even. It's just, it gets old. I'm telling you, every alien invasion, monster invasion movie, same thing. It always comes down to people that worked in a pet shop, or the guy that sold weed on the corner are the ones.
I watch Independence Day.
I watched Independence Day.
Independence Day, I think, shows, I know, it's one of the greatest alien invasion movies of all time. I think it shows you that the military was perfectly capable of fighting if they knew what they were fighting against. And they didn't when they started, so they got shellacked, right? I don't know. I think this is a topic for a whole nother discussion, which I am happy to have. But it's definitely a trope. I think the trope that I want to stay away from is every season must be about this entire survival of the galaxy. If we don't save it, everybody will die, kind of thing.
Right.
I think that shit's gotten a bit old, right?
Yeah.
And here's the other fun bit. At the same time as we had Coppelius season 1 of Picard and Discovery season 2 Control, we had Rehoboam in Westworld, right, which was another computer trying to take over the planet, with Dolores Abernathy trying to like stop him. So computer versus computer. It's like, it's such a trope right now. We've got to do something more creative than this.
I agree.
Yep. Well, before we get to Renzo fulfilling a promise that we made at the beginning of this episode, Jay, do we have people that we regularly appreciate for keeping these shows coming?
Yep. I could tell by your voice that it was coming. I had to quickly get it pulled up. You thought I forgot, didn't you?
I had to draw out the length of my voice to give you time to do the thing.
Did it look like I was clicking frantically?
Mayhaps. Don't do it yet, Renzo. It's for the end. Welcome to Renzo's bedroom, everybody. Jay.
Office, not bedroom, but
Office bedroom. All right, so here's who we would like to thank. Special thanks to our contributors, Stephanie Baker for Patreon and Anchor, Nora Hickman is a Patreon donator, S. Tam with Patreon, Anne Marie on Patreon as well, and Jim Cook with Anchor, which is our audio platform of our podcast, and the screen caps that we use for our backgrounds, and also during the after the post-production of our episodes, our VODs. Those come from John from cygnus-x1.net. And you know what we ought to do? I need to try to get a hold of John. We got to get him on one of these. If anything, talk about his work with the images. Do an episode review with us. That's an idea.
I need to do a minor correction there, just because one of those people that you named is a friend of mine, Nora Hickson, not Hickman.
Oh, it's Hickson.
Hickson.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It's okay. Just want to make sure they're taking care of us, so we want to take care of them. Nora, I love you. Bye. Thanks.
Can I fetch the puppy now?
You can fetch the puppy. I've been waiting so long. I need to see this puppy.
What do we got for the puppy? This is a cute puppy. I like this little boy.
Tuvix is like, what, 10 months old now? Look
He's
at
a year
him.
next month, actually.
Look
at
at him. What an adorable pupper. That's going to be the
He's been-
thumbnail.
He's being a good boy now.
Yeah, his
Oh, yeah.
ears are all perky.
Yeah, he just needs a little attention. If you set him in your lap while we're doing a recording, he'll be quiet and content and just rub his belly, and he's good.
Yeah, but you'd end up with him covering my face a lot. I don't know if people want that. They probably do.
Yeah, I mean, we've all got faces for radio, right?
It's okay because I got the screenshot.
Oh, great. So you said, how old is he now?
Oh.
He's 11 months. He'll be a year old end of October.
Oh,
Tuvix.
cute.
Tuvix.
I would like to have a dog and all that, but just the whole having to be on a schedule of taking them outside and
Once they get old enough, they're actually pretty good about
Dude,
it.
it's totally worth it. Like, they get me
4 in the morning when it's cold as shit.
They get me out
so
of the
puppy
morning.
months are rough.
Yeah.
No, it's even okay. It's fine then. Like, take the dog out for a walk. Get it a little bit of energized. You know, you're gonna be. It's gonna be a beautiful thing. It's gonna be great.
Actually,
worry
great
about
exercise too. It gets you out of your house, which is nice.
Yeah, dogs are awesome.
Yeah, no regrets about getting Tuvix. He's a rescue, so it was. I didn't know what I was getting when I signed up for it. So
Right?
Oh, you got a good boy.
Yeah, Tuvix really is the greatest. Dogs are awesome. I love dogs. Well, gentlemen, we will see you in the future next week. If you're listening to this on Monday, my goodness gracious, we are going to be so busy today because we are recording with Noah Averback Katz, the Andorian Rin, and we're also recording with Dayton Ward, and we'll tell you more about that with special editions that should be due out tomorrow with Dayton Ward's first book in the Coda trilogy. So
That's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to these.
stay tuned, and thank you for always going boldly with Beyond Track.
I can't do
We are Beyond Track Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your years. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.